Greetings, I am Lies.
And I am Scandal.
And let's play My Hero One's Justice together.
That was an excellent day at the office, I imagine. How do we do this?
It's One's Justice. It's probably an interesting translation, but for me that's an awkward, English sentence.
It kind of is. Even though it's not really a sentence, it is a title, and I've read some awkward titles where you just kind of go, pardonnez-moi? I no comprende.
My Hero One Snakes on a Plane.
Oh my god, what I'm tired of is all these motherfucking snakes on a motherfucking plane! Okay, full disclosure, I've never actually seen that movie, but it's okay. So anyway, what we are going to be doing, since we talk so much about My Hero Academia / Boku no Hero Academia on the show so much.
We do. It is all throughout our body of work.
Yes.
We have finally acquired the video game from our good and awesome local library.
Yes, support your libraries. But also at the same time too, this is a fighting game.
It is.
It does have a story mode though, like most fighting games do, which is very grateful for those of us who actually really like stories.
I don't know if that's most of us or if it's some of us.
I'm talking about the most of us.
I don't know if most fighting games actually have stories.
As you can see me gesturing wildly between my screen and myself.
I know that some fighting games have stories. I don't know that most do.
Well,
I actually don't know what the statistics are on that, just so you know.
Based off of what I understand, most modern...
so we're being more specific
I am being more specific. More specifically, modern fighting games tend to have stories.
Absolutely.
Now, older stuff, I don't really remember if there really was a lot of, story in those.
Anyway, so a little bit of this is unlocked because we have tried over and over again to make an episode 1, and we keep having fails with our equipment. But we have done updates, and we have changed priorities, as is the case so often. And we're going to give this a start. So we're going to start on Chapter 0. Full warning and disclosure. Spoilers. Huge spoilers.
Huge.
Giant spoilers. If you do
basically the end of Season 2
and on. And we don't know what all is in here, but we know it starts with Gran Torino's arc, so if you don't know who Gran Torino is, spoilers!
Aha! And you will just have to deal. No, I'm kidding.
However, I am loving this little Uraraka chibi. It's very cute.
The Uraraka chibi is just endlessly charming. I am very proud of them for
And the game has very long load times. It really does.
It really does.
So having a cute loading chibi helps.
And then it freezes, and then it confuses you, and you kind of go, oh my god, did it die?
Please tell me. Okay, you're working. Here we go. And his helmet.
And the most uninventive villain award goes to...
I've seen so many uninventive villains. And just so you know also the tone of this game, we're going to be talking through everyone talking.
Yes.
Their dialogue's all going to be on the screen. The Japanese voice actors sound amazing, but we have so many opinions, we're just going to be babbling off. So if you want to hear it quietly, this may not be the Let's Play for you.
Yes.
But other than that, you can always turn us down and just read the words if you want to. But in this case, we're talking about the fact that he's like, I will defeat you, all for one, and I will defeat you so hard with a bigger and stronger arm than your big strong arms.
So that I will kill you until you die from it, and also that I have specific quirks that I have designed to kill you most specifically specifics.
Yes, it's
which is
tailored
so
to you.
Damn annoying. So if you guys have ever seen the movie that was, I don't know if it was directed or produced by Tim Burton, but it was Tim Burton's, the Miss Peregrine's house or
Miss
home?
Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. The bad guy in there was also very uncreative. He literally said, hold on, I was going to leave it there for a second so we could talk about it.
Oh, okay, fine.
Okay,
fine.
I'll say, anyways, the bad guy in there was like, I can turn into anything I can imagine. And since he turns into all of 2 things, apparently his imagination is very, very small.
He has a tiny, which is exactly what we're calling All for One. This is a call out
All
for
for
All for One.
Has a
You
tiny
imagination. And again, award for the worst imagination goes to...
There are a lot of villains that I feel like
Honestly,
have very tiny imaginations.
They
On
really
the other
do.
hand, Alright, so I love that they do a recap here.
They
and
do.
I'm going to slowly go through this, but I wanted to stop on a couple of these screens because there's a number of things that Scandal and myself wanted to talk about in reference to this. So this here, the first villain capture that you ever see in the series, and that's if you watch the series or if you read it. There are some things about this that I find deeply uncomfortable. So you have your regular police in the background, and then you have your celebrity police, which is your heroes, okay? And that is what that is. And then you have your villain, who is literally being arrested with a gag and and what do you call that? Like a binding jacket?
I would call it restraint.
A restraint,
severe restraint.
And a severe restraint for purse snatching. Now the thing is Kamui Woods, who's framed as being the good guy, the awesome guy, the hot
and
hero.
Kamui Woods is not the
He's not pictured here.
That's Mount Lady.
It is. So when he's fighting this individual, he calls him the embodiment of evil for snatching a purse. Now, the dude is then freaking out and going, hey, get away from me, and he's getting more violent as they're trying to capture him.
And he gets larger and larger also as he gets more and more violent.
But the other thing that I don't like about this is, one, while I understand that he's not human strictly, but a lot of the heroes and villains, well, a lot of the people aren't human looking. They're just humanoid. He has dark skin, and he has dreadlocks. I feel like he's very coded as a person of color.
I mean, I wouldn't call him necessarily super dark-skinned, but the dreadlocks thing in particular with the facial hair reads to me as almost like an international somebody who does not fit, basically, kind of thing. That thing that really does...
You don't see a lot of Japanese people with facial hair in the stories, generally.
Yeah, you generally... Or if you do, what they are is... I think actually
specific
an unfortunate,
archetypes?
like stereotype or expectation of going, you're literally a foreigner, you're not from around in this area, you're a purse snatcher from a different place.
And again, sort of mentioning the whole celebrity police thing, like I thought this was super cute when I was like, Midoriya is a massive fanboy, and it's really adorable, and he has been forever. But again, you have these sensational videos on the internet of cops doing their jobs and everyone going, this is how I engage with the police, which is a really interesting thing to do. And while All Might is super cool rescuing people here, that this is a performance for the people watching, not just him saving people.
Right? And also at the same time, too, even though both of us do understand that All Might himself, and I don't know how far it is in the manga, you're going to have to forgive both of us at least on that front. We haven't really kept up with the manga much. We mostly just watched a lot of the anime, and then we kind of peter off on it as we lose interest, because that's how we roll, I don't know. But where, God, he's so fucking short. Anyway, I'm fine. But the big thing is about it is that I find to be fascinating is, yes, All Might has his own hero agency, but that also means in a lot of ways that nobody's really watching him.
Without a
sidekick, who
sidekick.
watches the Watchmen and nobody's really watching All Might. Imagine truly if All Might ever got into his head that he needed to enforce a specific type of justice, as it were, which is why I've actually been super critical of the fact that in the English version of My Hero Academia, of the anime, they actually have the voice actor and a lot of the people in the show, they made the decision to not just call him the symbol of peace, they call him the symbol of justice.
Of peace and justice.
But sometimes they just call him
the symbol of justice.
Right.
Okay. But what my friend is talking about here is, for some reason in the anime,
they
decided
really short
when he's small, when he is skinny mite, if you will, that they make him short. And in the manga, his height doesn't change when he gets skinny.
No.
He is literally a 7-foot tall skeleton.
Yeah, and what it is he just loses height because he folds over.
Because
so
he hunches.
He
because,
hunches.
Ow. And also a lot of scar tissue. Anybody who's ever had restrictive scar tissue, like, the boy cannot stand up straight.
He probably can't. I would
not
be
when
surprised.
he's, not flexing like
Oh,
that.
yeah, like, ow.
Flex like
That's
that.
probably one of the reasons also why he bleeds so much out of his mouth. But that also is like your
things.
tissue literally regenerates every single time.
You're tearing and healing over and over again.
Great.
Ow.
The pain.
Okay, ow.
It is real.
Anyway, so some opinions there on things and some questions on things. And so surprisingly, we're playing this in an interestingly timely era to talk about police-related things and, social justice and inequality, which is part of why this series, in our opinion, has gotten so popular overall. It's hit a really strong chord with people socially, going, the inequality in here of quirk and quirkists sort of being like ableists is really, really strong. And while it is not the main thread of the story,
and also like some classism too, not necessarily just ableistic.
But it is both. It's also it's a lot of classism in relation to the ableism.
Yeah.
Because instead of it being your ethnic background, it is your
quirk
background and whether or not
your
you have
inheritance and what.
So you get somewhere between like an ethnic structure and a like Harry Potter kind of structure mixed into a hero's thing.
Right.
Where you're either born with it or you aren't.
Right.
And you go from there.
And then they never really deal with the fact that the only way Deku was literally able to function was that he really did have to go get a quirk. In the end, even though All Might said, you don't actually need a quirk to become a hero, he went, if you're actually going to become anything like me, of course you do.
Well, and the thing is,
like,
to become a
was
hero
a weird...
like All Might, you would have to, because Batman's never going to be like All Might, and he doesn't have a quirk.
I know, except Batman's going to use his damn brain, and honestly, I actually really liked, there was somebody who talked about it, but you're going to have to forgive me, I'll probably try looking it up, I think I have it on my phone, actually. But where this individual, they themselves, they're a geek while being disabled, and they talked about it, and it's called the Geeky Gimp.
Okay.
So geekygimp.com, and they were talking about disability and ableism in My Hero Academia.
Awesome.
Right? And what they were discussing was going like, it was disappointing kind of that they didn't have more heroes that actually basically took advantage of the support items in the series, and that also more heroes literally that weren't just made out of support items rather than quirks.
Interestingly enough, based on the primary narrative of the story, it seems like support items, unless you have specific types of quirks, are a little bit taboo, because the good heroes, the big heroes,
the best heroes don't use them. Yeah.
And so what I have seen even in the anime is that you have, when they're doing like their internships, the lower tier heroes tend to have more support items, which is interesting. But also in reference to the whole disability / ableism thing, right here with Gran Torino, one thing that was frustrating me about Gran Torino's arc, in reference to Deku, is that he is painted as the senile old powerhouse.
Yes.
And while I get that your wise old senile powerhouse is a trope, I understand it is a trope, and that this is taking advantage. You know, this is jumping on bandwagoning onto that trope, if you will. Right. That I have hated that trope because senility doesn't just go away because you're ready to tell people things. There are a lot of aging-related disabilities and difficulties that are really no laughing matter at all. They're quite serious and they're quite devastating for those they afflict.
I was about to say, it's also really frustrating to just kind of watch him anyway, because he really does seem to completely forget what's going on, but then as soon as he remembers, he is instantly back in and he knows exactly right on top of what's going on, which is like, does he actually have senility, or is he just being that stereotype of the old person who is just holding back because they want you to figure it out? You need to just figure it out, and it's okay. It's actually a character that you can see in our playthrough, and we discuss in relation to Lily's Garden with Philip Jones. So Philip Jones is actually your lawyer in that one, and he is the one who's helping you get your inheritance. In this case, you're getting your character, Lily, so that she can take care of this land and so she can earn it at the end of 30 days. Now, he, being her lawyer, is supposed to help her. But he really fucking doesn't seem to, and he only seems to, quote, help her basically when she reaches her limit and she freaks out enough. Like, we've gone through basically what they say of several days or several, like, periods of time or cycles.
They're actually just days in the game.
Yeah, they're just days in the game where they will just be like, here's the character, and the character's freaking out for this whole entire day, and then along comes Philip Jones to tell you that you just need to chill out, my child, and you're fine, and it's okay, and, honey, don't even worry about that, you're gonna be alright. And you're like, how could you not worry about something that you've literally deliberately told the character and the player, and that because the character's freaking out, your player potentially should basically be freaking out, going, but I'm supposed to be involved and I'm supposed to care because this is what's supposed to be important in the universe, and he's just like, yeah, no, honey, you're fine. And then whenever the character tries to ask him, and the character being Lily tries to ask him any questions about it, he goes, oh, I'm sorry, I'm tired. Oh, I'm sorry, I just need to go take a nap. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't hear you suddenly. You know, it's
Look
really...
at these tulips, how interesting.
Yeah, and you're just kind of like, what are you doing? Like, it feels kind of like an insult. You know, it just feels sort of tasteless, and they sort of seem to do that a little bit with Gran Torino. And actually, though, also speaking about Gran Torino, again, I am still fucking heavily disappointed with the way that they portray how afraid All Might is of him.
Okay, so I'll just take over on this one, as my friend has had a little space to monologue here, and I do agree with them in like almost everything they've said about Mr. Jones in reference to, here's your senile old mentor that's being really, basically, going really strongly, well, if I tell you, it just isn't true.
Won't get it.
You just won't get it, and so you have to figure it out on your own, and that's the only thing that matters. But, the next piece being, what
a Gran Torino
All Might.
All Might.
Okay, so Gran Torino and All Might. So the bit of this, while Midoriya has one kind of arc with Gran Torino for sure, of learning from and stuff, the way they have the interplay between Gran Torino and All Might frustrates me a lot personally. And it frustrates me a lot personally because it is made very clear throughout the series narrative that Gran Torino abused All Might. As his trainer, as his mentor, he abused him both physically and mentally, aggressively. And All Might is afraid of him, which is reasonable as someone being your abuser, especially when you were a minor and they were an adult. However, they play it in the series for laughs.
They kind of really do.
Not
like,
even kind of do. Like, it is a
Yeah.
comedic arc learning that All Might can be afraid of someone, and he's hiding in a corner screaming
Look,
out
the
away
most
from him.
powerful man in all of Japan and is fucking terrified out of his mind of this little tiny old man. Except that when you meet him, at least I've seen for parts of the comic themselves, like in bits of the manga itself, you can actually go back, you look at it, and Gran Torino is actually pretty tall, so apparently he lost a butt ton of height somehow
as he got older.
even though that doesn't make any sense at all. I'm like, did you just lose your entire spinal column and all of your like organs and bits and pieces? Whatever.
All right. So in the meantime, no, he got his legs shortened. It's fine. He's like from King of the Hill. He's Grandpa.
Oh, all right, sure.
It's okay. Anyway, Scandal and I are going to be switching back and forth between the controller.
Yes.
That was myself, Liz, on the controller going through the primary tutorial and
Yes.
learning all the dog moves down there, which I have not learned them all. But
definitely
I will
have
spend
not.
more time learning them because some of them are super freaking useful.
Well, that's because my friend is actually a person whenever they play fighting games, like when she does, she's the one who will go, I will learn the moves, and me? No, not me. I am a button masher. I am old school through and through.
The most button mash. Now, even when I button mash, I use the moves that I know to inform the button mashing. And that has always been a thing that I have done. But yeah, even when I played like Mortal Kombat 2, back in the day, because you know we had a lot of old games at our house and a lot of whatever was cheap hand-me-downs at my house. We had everybody giving us, you know, stuff once they got tired of it or upgraded their systems.
Right.
He looks dead inside
Oh God,
right
it's like,
here.
hi,
so bad.
inside.
I'm fine. I lied. Yes.
I'm like, there are so many things about the series that I really like. Actually, there's a lot of the things that we've discussed that really are the things that brought me into the series, which is why I think it's so important. Because, like, for example, in this series, which is a funny thing they seem to subvert really quickly in the game itself, like, you can destroy the infrastructure. You can destroy the buildings. You have freaking Gran Torino also living in what basically looks like a condemned building.
It really does.
And it's like, what is going on? I thought if you're able to fix just basically about anything, but that also could say that basically your bureaucratic government is so bad still.
It doesn't matter that you have Cementos and other infrastructure heroes. You still have to pay.
Well, see, what they're going to do, you know, you have to understand that they need to work on building UA so that all the kids have to stay on campus, but helping everybody else with their infrastructure and helping people stop with the petty crime. Because I have to say, petty crime, so if you don't know based off of, like, okay, again, this is my understanding and my education, and based off of the sociology and the psychology that I have personally engaged with. You really do, honestly, for the most part, have people who are just, they're committing basically small petty crimes because they're trying to survive.
Yes.
What they just need are that $200 extra, $300 extra a week or whatever
Or
it
a
might
month.
be. Or a month.
So statistically, and I've mentioned this before in some of our other Let's Plays, it is $200 to $300 a month that will prevent people from basically hitting bankruptcy.
Yes.
And statistically, that is what it is in America. Going, if people had $200 or $300 a month, they would not have to file bankruptcy. Not that bankruptcy is the worst thing ever, but that is, you know, you're
But it's
pretty
basic.
low when you end
Yeah.
up in that space.
But also, it is pretty horrible though too, because like once you run into it, it's kind of like it can really be the end of basically that part of your life, and you need to start it all over again in terms of earning basically credit. Like credit is such a monster here in the U.S., and we have a lot of like credit loan sharks that run around, and we've also got, you know, like payday loans and stuff like that. They're really difficult to deal with.
I'm very predatory. But in reference to the infrastructure, in the series, both the manga and the anime, they make it very clear that it is important that heroes be aware of buildings and streets and bridges and various things, and that they be aware of how much damage they're doing and try not to do so much damage because the city money. And those heroes, those celebrity police, are sponsored by the government to do their job, so the government can't have them tear stuff up all the time. So very much like if you've ever seen the movie Hancock, where you have this sort of, you know, person with superpowers who is this completely hated superhero potential individual, because every time he does anything, one, he's deeply depressed and disenfranchised, but he tears things up and does millions of dollars worth of damage to solve a relatively simple problem. And so when he gets a coach and they teach him, that individual teaches him not to do that kind of damage and how to avoid it, then suddenly people are endorsing him and supporting him and all this kind of thing. Because in the end, there is a lot that you have to deal with as far as infrastructure is concerned. It doesn't matter ultimately if you save 1 or 2 lives or basically apprehend 1 or 2 nuisance criminals if you destroy whole buildings every time you do it, because people will have nowhere to live. But where would they live?
But where would they live? Well, you see, they would live where you would let them live. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Now is going to be a great time. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to stop here. I know it's not exactly, but that's
episode
okay.
1.
We're going to go here and we're going to go to the next video in the next one. So thank you very much for joining us. If you like what we do, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And please also feel free to go check out our Ko-Fi or Patreon if you'd like to support us, if you'd like to sponsor us to play a game, if you'd just like to tip us because you think we're fucking awesome. But I gotta say, you're pretty awesome. Other than that, though, I have been Scandal.
And I have been Lies.
And it was great playing with you.
Bye!